Hello and welcome everyone to a shareholder update for Alpha Prospects. We have Christopher Foster, the CEO of Alpha Prospects. Christopher, you have prepared a lovely slide for us to give us a quick update on where we are with the company. And what we'll do is at the end of it, I've got questions coming through on the chat here. I'll collate all the questions and we'll go through some questions right at the end, if that's okay.
Yes, that'll be fine. Well, thank you very much, Selvin. As you know, I'm the CEO of Alpha Prospects, and this is an opportunity to invest. So within the presentation, let me turn to who are we? Well, Alpha has been going for since 2008. We are an investment holding company, and we have various investments around the world. And these are all listed within the presentation. We were quoted between 2008 and 2016 until the platform GXG closed down. We have three major deals that we're going to talk to you about, and we have a market cap currently of about 21 million. But we are concentrating on green energy, which is ESG as far as the stock exchange is concerned. So the first company I'm going to talk to you about is Active Energy. Now, I actually rescued Active Energy in 2006. I put in excess of 1.3 million in myself, so I really do believe in this company. It's listed on AIM and it currently has a share price of 0.6p. And we have the opportunity to come behind this company, as I know the chairman very well and the whole board, and we can take a significant stake. The share price actually has been very depressed over the last 2 years because by moving to biomass and particularly cold switch, which is a new invention and the IP that they hold, where you can put the whole of a tree into a machine, which is photographs are on the front page of our Alpha Prospects website, and there is a reaction and they come out as black pellets. Now the advantage of this is it has the same it has very little CO2 in relation to burning of coal, but it has the same calorific value as coal. So we view it as a coal replacement, and as you know, around the world, pressure is being put on countries and certainly on companies, particularly power stations, to change their energy source. So going back to what the brokers have said about this company, and this was prepared by Allenby on the next page, which is table 5, they're saying from the first machine they're putting in, which is 5 tons an hour, they can produce 7 million turnover and approximately 21% profit. But if we go up to 50 tons an hour, the profitability goes up to about 78% and the turnover 77 million a year. Now, this is one site in one country. I mean, this can be replicated all over the world. And in fact, to prove that the attraction, the first license has been sold to Canada last November for 2 million. So I believe that even if it only went back to the share price it was 2 years ago, that is a 10-fold increase. Now the next one I'm going to talk about, where we also control, is plasmoid power. Now this took 7 years to develop in our factory in Thailand. Again, we have photographs on our site of the factory. We currently have 150 people there working away on a gas ignition system, which is the little spark that you have in your cooker or gas oven. Now, we have developed this engine to the extent that it ends up with the result of having 0 CO2. And as you know, fossil fuels being burnt in all engines are rather nasty as regards the environment. Now, what we want to do with the money we're going to raise is to go for patents and engine testings at Ricardo's down in the south coast of England. We believe that this engine can save up to 90% on fuel. It has to be started on petrol, but then through the system, it goes from the exhaust into ionized water, which creates a reaction very similar to thunder. Now, the original Tesla and Einstein both talked about plasmoids, and it's the plasmoids, when you get this reaction, that actually goes back into the engine, which actually keeps the engine from running. The next one we have is, where we own 65%, is Tasmanian Oil and Gas. We have an American company called Empire Energy that spent 60 million developing the seismic for this. Now, Tasmania is a very long way away. It's the island that's about 200 miles south of mainland Australia. It has an incredibly hard rock substance called dolomite, and that's why it's made it so difficult for anybody to prove that the gas is underneath. But we have spent so many years, and it's taken me about 10 years to get control of the company, that we believe that, talking to the Tasmanian Mines Department, that the gas is there, and we want to drill 2 exploratory wells, and then if we hit the gas, which we believe we will, that is the jackpot of approximately 11 billion Australian dollars. Now, there is a pipeline that somebody put in, a hedge fund, about 10 years ago at the cost of 1.5 billion. So it's 200 miles underneath the sea. It's working at the moment from Australia to Tasmania, and we want to run it the other way, so the gas is going from Tasmania to Australia. On the next page of the presentation, we have diversified holdings. So I own 10% of Capital Plus. We own a few percent of Clifton Africa, which is building houses for governments in Sierra Leone and Ghana. Derlite, I've already mentioned, that's our factory in Thailand. We have a variety of shares in Rockstars, including Rockwater and Rock Global. And we also have another investment in Redford Day, which is similar to Alpha, and we have about 3% of them. Going through the presentation, the board of directors is myself and Stephen Freudman, but we do have teams of people, including professors, etc., underneath the main top company, which make up the team. So we probably have about 15 people underneath the top company. So turning over to what is the deal? Well, at the moment, we issued warrants, which is shares to original shareholders, and we offered them a new share for 2p against the current share price of 5.5p. We have 10 million taken up, so we have 36 million shares available, and this is at a 64% discount to the current share price of 5.5p. So it's a very attractive offer, and it's only come about because of the shareholders, our existing shareholders, only being able to take up so much. So in conclusion, I'd like to say why I think we should invest. Well, one, because you're coming in at a discount that will close when this is closed. And in terms of the 3 investments that we think we'll make the most money out of, Active Energy could go up 10 times if it just goes back to its original share price. Toga, if we do hit gas, we would then sell it to BP or Shell or somebody of that nature and quality, and we would receive a royalty and a large upside payment. And the engine will be similar, because once it's fully tested and approved, I intend to take it to California and then try and sell 10 million to sell 10% for 10 million and then get a royalty on the development and execution of a business plan, because it will be somebody very big, it may even be Tesla in themselves, that actually take it on. So in conclusion, Alpha Prospects, I think, is a good investment. I put my own money in. I currently own 23% of it, and I believe that the next 3 years will be rather exciting. Thank you very much.
Christopher, thank you very much for that. That was very insightful. I've got some questions on the side. So one of the questions, you talk about Alpha Prospects being an award-winning investment company. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Can you explain to me what awards? Why did you win it? Why do you deserve it?
Well, that's very kind of you. Yes, we won 2 awards in the last year. One was the most exciting energy company, and that was obviously because of the engine. And the other one I got was they awarded us the small cap company, unquoted. I mean, there's quite a lot of competition. I didn't even know we hadn't gone into it. I just opened up the email one Monday morning and they said, congratulations, you've won. So we have sent them a few things for them to promote. There was going to be a dinner, but obviously the virus put pay to that. But it's very nice to get any recognition. But what I really want is the share price to go up, because that's the main thing that you're judged on.
No, quite. Okay, this is a personal question. We've spoken at length about plasmoid power. I know you talked about Einstein speaking about it, and of course Nikola Tesla, not the car, but Nikola himself, talking about plasmoid power. But can you explain a little bit more about, I guess, the engineering, but bearing in mind, I'm not a scientist, and I imagine a lot of our shareholders aren't either. So can you just, in layman terms, explain to me exactly what it is and where the application is? Because you talk about, I mean, it still needs petrol, but where is it that
well, it only needs petrol to start off with, until it hits the critical 375 degrees. What I think would be very helpful for your investors, if we actually show a video of the engine running in our factory in Thailand. When I heard that it was running, and my engineer business partner, who is a qualified engineer, he said, I don't know how it's working, but it is. We have diagrams, we have the exact science behind it, and if any of your investors want to follow that, rather like you, I'm not a scientist, but we have produced all the scientific necessary information and explanation, but we don't want to give exact dimensions, because then you're giving it away.
No, I understand that. Let's have a look at the video very quickly.
I'm Malcolm Bendall of Siam Industrial Ceramics, and we're here to show you our technology. We're about to run the machine. What we will be able to demonstrate then is excess heat being generated at the bottom of the machine, and excess cooling being demonstrated at the top of the machine. This indicates the formation of plasmoids, and those plasmoids we're using as fuel to increase the efficiency of the whole energy system of this motor. So here's the reactor. The hot exhaust gases come from the motor into the reactor. We put thermocouples onto here so we can demonstrate our technology, which is in effect creating a thunderstorm here, where we have hot, dry exhaust gas opposed to cold, moist air, which we generate here through a vacuum by a bubbler, and that bubbler generates plasmoids, which then come into this system and grab the excess electrons. Those excess electrons are then used effectively as fuel in the combustion chamber. So what we're showing here is that the current temperatures measured by these gauges are effectively the same. And then any changes from that baseline will be due to the effects of the running of the motor and the engagement of our technology. So here we have the air intake that's brought in by the vacuum naturally created by the motor. The air is then forced to go through a UV light chamber which pre-ionises it before it then carries on into the bubbler chamber, where actually we have cavitation bubbles formed because it's a pulsed vacuum, and those cavitation bubbles form plasmoids which then travel down this tube, draw those plasmoids back into the reaction chamber, and where there's a reaction between that moist cold air and the hot dry exhaust gas, which creates a thunderstorm effect, and that high charge is then captured by the plasmoids, which are then able to carry that energy back into the motor. Now we're about to start the machine, and we will run it on fuel, normal fuel, under normal conditions with the stock standard carburetor, and we will get it to a temperature of around about 350 degrees before we then introduce our plasmoid fuel. The temperature thermocouples have been connected with copper wire to keep them in place due to the vibration of the machine. And we were able to measure the exact temperature here with a thermocouple of this gas, because it is part of the thermal equation in the reactor, because it's a cooling effect, whereas the thunderstorm effect is a heating effect. And so we then are able to calculate through the thermocouples and through the data logger the net energy that is actually being generated by this system.
Okay. Well, look, I'll be honest, I didn't understand a lot of that, but it certainly looks quite amazing. Christopher, you spoke about obviously protecting the intellectual property, the IP that the business has, but at the same time, I mean, it is such a dichotomy, because at the same time, you don't want to give the game away. Now, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. I've kept a close eye over the last sort of 10, 12 years that his latest businesses, the Tesla Solar City and SpaceX has been around. And he's a big believer in not patenting a lot of the technology that he has. And his argument, which I know at the beginning of the stock market journey for his listed companies, was always a thing that Bloomberg used to spend hours discussing, which was, if there's no patent, what is the secret sauce? What's in the secret sauce? But actually, there is an argument why we shouldn't be patenting, and by virtue of doing that, putting in the public domain exactly how we do what we do. Isn't that right?
So when I share your thoughts, the inventor shares the thoughts as well, because you just take something simple like Coca-Cola. They've patented all their the name and the logo, but they certainly aren't going to do the recipe, because otherwise somebody could copy it. And they've been around since 1896. So what we're going to do is just sufficient to use certain buzzwords and the size, but without giving dimensions. So, I mean, you could look at you could open a car bonnet and look at a Jaguar engine, and then you close the bonnet. Nobody else would be able to replicate that. And we're doing something similar, but it will be the testing and the proof, and somebody putting a red stamp saying this has 0 CO2, which will attract the attention of the world.
Yes.
Now, we've got to be very careful, because we haven't spent 10 years and a lot of money to get to this stage for somebody just to steal it, like the Chinese.
No, absolutely. Very good. Let's come on to the offer we've got on at the moment. So, yeah, existing shareholders, I mean, it's a deal that almost sounds too good to be true. And I've been around the block a few times. So we're talking about a 64% discount to the prevailing price at the moment of your shares. Why? How? And what's the motivation behind that, Chris?
No, that's a very, very good question. And let me tell you the rationale. If you do a rights issue, traditional public company does a rights issue, they offer it to their own shareholders at a discount. So, I mean, you might have Barclays Bank, and they have a £5 share price, but they'll do it at £1.
Yes.
Now, what I did was I wrote the document because I wanted the money to come in. And I couldn't rely on all my shareholders to come up with all the money, which they didn't. They come up with some of the money, but not all of it. So what I've done is I've written it that it was then available, rather like it being underwritten, it's available to other people to come in and take the advantage of this thing, of this price. So I can then get the money in, get the engine tested, get the value, hit the PR button, and then watch everything happen. So that was my rationale, and that's why it happens to be at a 64% discount.
Which is again terrific, given the asset holding. But at the same time, we need to look at the investor journey. So someone coming in now, exercising the warrants, getting the share price at such a hefty discount. Now, I'm not going to hold you to this, of course, because who knows what happens in the future. But what is an investor's journey likely to look like? Or what are the different scenarios that could, unfold over the coming years for a shareholder in Alpha Prospects?
Well, I've also been raising money at 5.5p, and I've raised 1.25 million over the last 18 months at 5.5p. Now, I can share with the investors that I would have closed this down the beginning of the year, if I'd been able to get over to either Bahrain or Dubai, because both the sovereign wealth funds, who look several generations ahead, are fascinated and interested in investing in green technology, because oil is infinite, or finite rather, and it will run out. So if they're thinking 50 years ahead, 100 years ahead, they want to be in green themselves. So that was going to be £20 million at 5.5p. Now, all that would do is prove again the 5.5p. Then you get success on top of it with any of these three, and I believe all three can happen. And then you've got a really exciting situation with people wanting to buy shares. Now, we have a trading platform, and also we've also lined up with Asset Match with the view that we can have an auction every 3 months. So you're not locked in. It will be ongoing.
Right. I understand. Asset matched, it's on best efforts, provided that there is a buyer for the seller who wants to sell a share.
That's why I'm not going yet, because they want to have publicity. So somebody reads in the Daily Telegraph or the Daily Mail or whatever, and they say, I want some of that. How do I get it? And then that's what a match market is.
Okay, Chris, that's fascinating. Tell me, with the money that's being raised at the moment,
yes,
give us an idea of where that money is going to be applied, and what benefit it will have to the company overall.
Okay. Well, subject to how much I raise in this round, I would certainly do all the testing that's required on the engine. I will take then an engine to California. I will increase my shareholding in Active Energy, as suggested. The Tasmanian situation, that unfortunately needs a lot more money. That needs $13 million for 2 exploratory wells. So I'll have to wait for the Middle East money to come in on that. It'll probably come in on a profit share, and them also taking a 20% stake, because I want to still control it until we're ready for shareholders to maximize their return.
Okay, all right, that's great. Tell me, with your personal experience. So I looked at your CV. You run obviously large listed companies. You've been a champion of smaller businesses too. What do where do you see Alpha Prospects going from an exit point of view? If I invest today, how will I likely get my money back?
Well, as I said, it would either come through us having a trade sale of one of those 3 investments, and we then distribute in terms of a dividend.
Okay.
Alternatively, I go a longer term, but shorter term for the investors by having it quoted. And then I would bring on a team and a successor, etc., with a view that we'll build this up and raise money on NASDAQ. I don't think we'll have any trouble at all. I mean, the engine alone could be worth many noughts.
Astronomical. Absolutely, absolutely. So am I right? I mean, given that Alpha Prospects, I guess, is sort of the mothership of a number of different...
It is. I mean, we have 11 investments. I mean, we own 51% of the engine. The other 49 is the inventor. We own 65% of the toga because of the historic people and the professors. They've all got a little bit in there, but that's enough for us to control it. When we didn't control it and we went to investors, they said, we don't want to invest in a minority situation because you don't control it. So it took me another 2 or 3 years to get into the position of controlling it.
So I'm just trying to understand. So I'm buying into this company which holds, which owns shares in lots of other businesses.
Yes.
One of those little businesses, because I know, for example, Capital Partners, they've recently changed their name. All of these companies, they're not staying still. They're either developing technologies, they're doing stuff, or in the business world, they're being, new partners are coming in, or partners going out, new deals happening. So with so much almost sort of plate tectonics happening, I guess it's conceivable in the coming years, months, years, that some of these companies will possibly, in their own right, go on and list on a market or get taken over or whatever. So the exits could potentially be at a single company holding level. And with that, I mean, I guess, look, you own, let's say it's a small minority stake you own in a corporate finance house, for argument's sake, and someone offered you money to sell that. With that capital, let's say that, couple of £1 million, something of that order. So we're not talking a seismic amount of money that could really, that you could do something meaningful with. But, if you had a couple of £1 million today, what are you likely to do with that? Where are you likely to employ it? Do you think you might do a special dividend? Do you think you would?
Oh, yes. Now, I mean, I would add that Alpha has no debt. I have not taken a salary for 10 years.
Right.
And what I want to be paid out of is dividends, which means I share with all the other shareholders. I wish more company directors that I invested in or are on the stock market did the same, but they don't. They get paid regardless of whether it's up or down. I've actually stipulated that I will only take it via dividends. And that's what I'm sticking to. So in answer to your question, once we've funded what we're doing, and if we get something that we've sold and we get a special dividend, then fine, I'm going to distribute it. So, for example, if I distributed 2 million, and that's equivalent to 0.2 of a penny. So that would be about 10% of your 10% of your current holding. So that'll be a nice return.
That's amazing. No one's suggesting that's about to happen any moment soon, but the point is that is what's likely to happen.
Well, the other thing I would stress, Selwyn, it's taken many years to get into this position. It really has. I mean, the engine's taken that length of time, Active Energy to turn it round, because I introduced them to biomass, put the new chairman in, and Tasmania, been working on 10 years to be able to get in control of it. So in a way, it looks as if we're starting, but it's actually taken an awful long time to get to this stage.
Yes. Well, look, I mean, I remember in my stockbroking days in the late, early to mid noughties, and then seeing some of those tiny sort of 5p, 10p AIM companies become sort of £1.50, £2, £2.50. We've seen lots of these companies. And often, I mean, yes, of course, you've got the diamond miner that finds the diamonds, the gold miner that finds the gold, and the oil companies, going into like Can Energy into India and then just finding billions of dollars worth of oil. That's fine. but often it's the technology company, isn't it? You know, the 10p to the £1.50. It's the fact that it was early stage, bit of R&D money, bit more R&D money, bit more R&D money, then commercialization, and then the orders start coming in, and then it's just phenomenal. You know, share price growth and shareholder value increase.
I couldn't agree with you more. And as most companies fail because of debt, the ones that do fail, we're not in that situation. So I think it's a question of, we're not a one-hit wonder. We have 3 really exciting projects, and any one of them will bring a real return.
That's brilliant. I think, you know, I've exhausted all the questions. That's great. We'll leave it there. Christopher, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. I'm sorry we had to do this at such distance, but you know, such are the times we live in.
Quite so.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity of talking to your investors.
My pleasure, and all the best. Let's speak again soon, hopefully in person. Take care, and thank you all for watching this. Take care.